U.S. President Donald Trump has announced a 35% tariff on Canadian goods to go into effect on August 1st. The president making the announcement shortly after 8 p.m. Eastern Time, posting a letter to the Prime Minister on his Truth Social account. In the letter, Trump cites his concerns over fentanyl flowing into the country and claims Canada didn't address the problem and only implemented tariffs of its own.
August 1st, 2025. Trump signed an executive order increasing tariffs on Canadian goods to 35%. Prime Minister Mark Carney released a statement just past midnight calling the move disappointing, but his carefully chosen diplomatic language couldn't hide the devastating reality. Canada's economy is collapsing under the weight of Trump's trade war. The unemployment rate hit 7.1% in August 2025, the highest level in 9 years excluding the COVID pandemic. The economy shed 65,500 jobs in August alone, with manufacturing losing 19,200 jobs and transportation shedding 22,700. Job openings plummeted to an 8-year low, and Trump just made it exponentially worse.
Ontario lost nearly 40,000 jobs in the second quarter of this year. That's according to the province's financial watchdog.
The FAO says the job losses are partially due to the impacts of U.S. tariffs. Most of the cuts were in the manufacturing sector, which lost 29,400 roles. Unemployment rose for the 9th consecutive quarter, reaching 7.8%. Ontario's finance minister says the province is investing $70 million for training supports for workers in tariff-affected industries.
This is happening right now, December 2025. And if you think the 35% tariff increase in August was bad, wait until you understand what's coming in 2026. Because Carney himself admitted the decades-long process of an ever closer economic relationship between the Canadian and U.S. economies is now over. That's not hyperbole. That's economic reality. I'm going to break down exactly what happened. The tariff escalation, the economic devastation, Carney's failed negotiations, the manufacturing collapse. Because this isn't just about trade policy. This is about whether Canadian workers can feed their families, whether Canadian businesses survive, whether Canada itself remains economically viable. But first, if you want to understand what's really happening to Canada's economy without the government spin, make sure you're subscribed to this channel. Hit that subscribe button right now. Your subscription helps us keep doing this hard-hitting economic reporting. All right, let's get into the timeline of this disaster. July 11th, 2025. Trump sent Carney a letter threatening to increase tariffs from 25% to 35% on most Canadian goods. This came after Canada and the US had been close to a sectoral deal on steel and aluminum tariffs. They were close. A deal was within reach. Then Ontario Premier Doug Ford decided to run an anti-tariff advertisement in the United States during the World Series. The ad featured former President Ronald Reagan speaking against tariffs. Carney saw the ad in advance and permitted it to air. Trump was infuriated, and Trump doesn't forgive. In his letter, Trump wrote, "Instead of working with the United States, Canada retaliated with its own tariffs. Starting August 1st, 2025, we will charge Canada a tariff of 35% on Canadian products sent into the United States, separate from all sectoral tariffs." Trump blamed Canada for not stopping fentanyl flow. Even though Canadian government data shows less than 0.1% of fentanyl seizures entering the US from 2022-2024 were made at the Canadian border. Almost all the rest came from Mexico. But Trump doesn't care about facts when he's wielding tariffs as weapons. July 31st, 2025. Trump signed the executive order. Effective August 1st, 2025, the tariff rate increased from 25% to 35% on all Canadian goods not covered under USMCA. Carney's statement was released just past midnight. The diplomatic language, "While the Canadian government is disappointed by this action, we remain committed to CUSMA." But buried in that statement was the admission of catastrophe. Other sectors of our economy, including lumber, steel, aluminum, and automobiles, are, however, heavily impacted by U.S. duties and tariffs. Heavily impacted. That's government speak for collapsing. Now let's talk about what those tariffs actually mean, because 35% isn't just a number, it's economic devastation. Canada is America's second largest trading partner after Mexico. In 2024, Canada bought $349.4 billion of US goods and exported $412.7 billion. That's $412.7 billion in Canadian exports now facing punishing tariffs. Canada's key exports to the US include oil and mineral fuels, cars and auto parts, industrial machinery, and nuclear reactors. Every single one of those sectors is getting crushed. Canada already faced 50% tariffs on steel and aluminum, 25% tariffs on autos, and 50% levies on copper shipments. The 35% baseline tariff on everything else was the nail in the coffin. And here's what makes it worse. Mexico got a 90-day extension on tariffs after Trump spoke with Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum. Mexico has been more effective in working with Trump to secure reprieves. Mexico surpassed Canada as America's top trading partner. Think about that. Canada, America's closest ally, sharing the world's longest undefended border, gets hit with 35% tariffs. Mexico gets a 90-day extension to negotiate. Carney failed, spectacularly. Now let's talk about the employment catastrophe. Because the tariffs aren't theoretical, they're destroying Canadian jobs right now. August 2025, Canada's unemployment rate jumped to 7.1%, the highest level since May 2016, excluding COVID years. The economy shed 65,500 jobs in August, largely in part-time work. The layoff rate rose to 1% in August compared to 0.9% 12 months earlier. But here's what's terrifying. Analysts polled by Reuters had forecast net job gains of 10,000. Instead, Canada lost 65,500 jobs. That's a 75,000 job miss in 1 month. The employment rate fell to its lowest level since the pandemic at 60.5%. The participation rate, showing how many people were economically active, hit 65.1%, also the lowest since the pandemic. That means Canadians aren't just losing jobs, they're giving up looking for work entirely. Now let's break down which sectors got destroyed, because the tariffs hit specific industries hardest. Manufacturing lost 19,200 jobs in August. Transportation and warehousing lost 22,700 jobs. Professional, scientific, and technical services lost 26,100 jobs. And here's the bigger picture. Factories shed 55,000 jobs since January 2025, the most of any major sector. Manufacturing's share of total employment dropped to a record low of 8.7%. Canada shipped 6.56 million short tons of steel to the US in 2024, making it historically the largest supplier of imported steel to the United States. But Canada's participation in the US steel market was sharply curtailed after Trump increased Section 232 tariffs to 50% in June. That's thousands of steel workers losing jobs, thousands of auto workers losing jobs, thousands of manufacturing workers losing jobs, all because Carney couldn't negotiate a deal. But wait, it gets worse. Job openings in Canada hit an 8-year low in summer 2025, under 470,000 job vacancies, the lowest since October 2017, when Canada's population was 5 million fewer people. The job vacancy rate hit 2.6%, the lowest since February 2017. More unemployed workers, fewer job openings. That's the definition of economic collapse. The ratio of unemployment to job vacancies jumped from 1.3, which is a huge movement. For every job opening, there are now 3 times as many unemployed workers competing for it. Now let's talk about Carney's failed strategy, because his approach to Trump has been an unmitigated disaster. At a G20 summit in Johannesburg, a CBC reporter asked Carney when he last spoke with Trump about tariffs. Carney shrugged and said, "Who cares? I mean, it's a detail. I'll speak to him again when it matters." In my view, there is no burning issue to raise with the president. Who cares? 75% of Canada's exports go to the US. Working people are suffering from job losses due to tariffs, and Carney dismisses it as a detail. It was a rare moment when the Prime Minister revealed his elitist side, forgetting that working people are suffering. Carney's entire strategy has been built on arrogance. He won office in April 2025 on the argument that Canadians should keep their elbows up against Trump. He's committed to doubling Canada's non-US exports over the next decade. At the Canadian Club in Toronto, Carney said, "The decades-long process of an ever closer economic relationship with the US is over. Our strengths of being tied to America are now our vulnerabilities." But here's the problem. You can't just wish away 75% of your export market. Carney is re-establishing trade relations with China. The same China that arrested Canadians Michael Spavor and Michael Kovrig in retaliation for Canada's arrest of Huawei CFO Meng Wanzhou. Michael Kovrig, now a senior advisor with the International Crisis Group, warned about getting involved with China. I was detained by state security officers when I was coming back from dinner, and they abducted me and held me hostage for 1,019 days. China is a ruthless authoritarian regime that does not respect human life and treats it callously. The Hague inquiry into foreign interference concluded that China is the most active perpetrator of foreign interference targeting Canada's democratic institutions, and that foreign meddling remains an existential threat to Canadian democracy. But Carney doesn't care. He's turned a blind eye to China's abuses and made human rights transactional. All while Canadian workers lose jobs because he can't negotiate with Trump. Now let's talk about where we are as we close out 2025. Because the situation has only gotten worse. December 18th, 2025. Carney said Canada probably won't reach a near-term deal with the US to lower tariffs on sectors such as steel and aluminum. Negotiations are being rolled into next year's review of the US-Mexico-Canada agreement. Carney said from Ottawa, "It was the case that we were close to an agreement. We didn't get that agreement. From our perspective, the terms of that agreement are still on the table. If the US wanted to sit down this weekend, we could sit down this weekend and hammer out a sectoral deal. I'm confident of that from our side." That's desperation talking. We could sit down this weekend? Trump doesn't care. He's got Carney exactly where he wants him, begging for scraps. Carney warned in a national address that global changes and new US tariffs have created a rupture in the relationship, turning some of Canada's former strengths into vulnerabilities. Our relationship with the United States will never be the same as it was. Our workers in autos, steel, and lumber are facing real risks from these tariffs. That's not risks. That's job losses happening right now. And what's Carney's solution? He's imposed new steel tariffs and quotas to prevent the Canadian market from being overwhelmed with cheap steel owing to global overcapacity and the closure of the US market. Effective December 26, 2025, tomorrow, Canada is reducing steel quotas from non-FTA countries from 50% to 20% of 2024 levels. For other free trade partners, quotas drop from 100% to 75%. This impacts South Korea and European Union countries. So Carney's answer to losing the US market is to restrict imports from everyone else. That's not a strategy, that's protectionism born of desperation. Here's the bottom line as we head into 2026. Trump increased tariffs from 25% to 35% on August 1st, 2025. Canada's unemployment hit 7.1%, the highest in 9 years. The economy shed 65,500 jobs in August alone. Manufacturing lost 55,000 jobs since January. Job openings hit an 8-year low. Carney admitted the US-Canada economic relationship is now over. No sectoral deal is expected before the 2026 USMCA review. And the USMCA review in 2026, that's when things could get catastrophic. Some trade commentators suggest the agreement won't be extended. If USMCA collapses, even the goods currently protected lose their exemptions. Canada faces 35% tariffs on everything. That's not just recession, that's economic depression. Make sure you're subscribed because we're tracking every development in 2026. The USMCA review, every employment report, every tariff announcement, every Carney failure. Because this is the story that determines whether Canada's economy survives. Carney thought he could out-tough Trump. He thought elbows up was a strategy. He thought diversifying away from the US would work. All while 75% of Canadian exports still go south. The result? 7.1% unemployment, 65,500 jobs lost in 1 month, manufacturing in collapse, no deal with the US, and 35% tariffs crushing what's left of Canadian competitiveness. The economic collapse isn't coming, it's already here, and Carney has no answers. This story is far from over. 2026 could be even worse. Stay tuned.